On July 20, 1969, man landed on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You are fake news.
Sir.
Jokes. No, they didn't, because it's all faked. And Stanley Kubrick was the architect of it all. Here's why. And if you don't believe me, you're part of the problem. You've been brainwashed. It all started in 1976, when William Casing published his book, We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion swindle. He outlined major faults with the recorded footage of the moon landing. Firstly, the American flag appeared to be blowing in the wind, when in fact this is not possible, as the moon exists in a vacuum. Hence, wind is not present and cannot blow the flag. Secondly, the footage showed shadows forming at different angles which cannot occur from the single light source of the moon, which is the sun. Thirdly, the impact of the spacecraft taking off did not leave any markings on the moon's surface. How can this be if the spacecraft required jets to propel itself back up off the moon? Fourthly, there were no stars in any of the photographs taken from the Apollo 11 mission. Finally, cameras managed to film the landing from a distance. Who put the cameras there, if Armstrong and Aldrin were the first people to land on the moon? All these mistakes occurred for one reason, because they were not in space. Instead, they hired the master of film to fake the Apollo 11 mission. Stanley Kubrick was hired by the government to create a fictional moon landing that would be broadcast across the globe and cement the US as a global superpower, because those damn communists suck and American capitalism rules. Am I right? No, I'm not, because I hate to break it to you, but it was real. I give it the stamp of realness, but it doesn't take away from the intriguing conspiracy that Stanley Kubrick directed a fake moon landing. And like many, I find these conspiracies fascinating, as absurd as they may be. The story goes as such. America, locked in a grueling battle of ideologies with the Soviet Union, known as the Cold War, was looking to establish itself as a sole global superpower. Competing on a social, cultural, and militaristic level, the two superpowers looked to conquer the Earth. But what is greater than Earth? Outer space. And soon the US and the Soviets were locked in a space race. Conquering Earth was one thing, conquering space was a whole nother achievement. Both countries focused their efforts on sending men into space for the first time in history, and the winners? America! Fuck yeah! Coming again to save the motherfucking day! Psych, it was the Communist Party of Russia. On April 21, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut, which is Russian astronaut, Yuri Gagarin, became the first person to travel in space aboard the Vostok 1. It was an enormous scientific achievement for the Soviets and put them firmly ahead in the space race. Naturally, the US had to go one step further, and that was to be the first nation to send a man to the moon. 8 years later, that feat was accomplished. Or was it? Fast forward to 1980, and Stanley Kubrick's horror masterpiece, The Shining, was released in cinemas. The movie did not receive immediate critical success, but has matured to be one of Kubrick's defining movies, and that speaks for itself. Whilst most people admired the movie for its cinematic brilliance, others became transfixed on something else: the hidden messages that could be seen both in the background and in plain sight. Conspiracy theorists became obsessed with the intricate details of the film and started to create a narrative that centered around Kubrick and the Apollo 11 mission, 11 years prior. 2001: A Space Odyssey, another one of Kubrick's masterpieces, features a revolutionary take on the science fiction genre. with its depictions of space travel eerily innovative, predicting much of what would come in the following decades. This became a substantiated fact, and I use that term incorrectly because it isn't a fact. Let's say a supporting argument for the theory, as it highlights not only Kubrick's brilliance as a director, but ability to depict science fiction beyond what had ever been made before. The movie did not use any computer-generated effects. Everything you see is either a prop or camera trickery. It's hard to fathom the groundbreaking nature of the film. And this was released in 1968, 1 year before man landed on the moon. Consequently, this would provide the conspiracy some leverage, and again I use that word loosely. Many believe that this film was the reason the US government chose Stanley Kubrick to fake the moon landing. Deep into the space race, the US needed to land a human on the moon, and fast. The Soviets were making ground, or so they said, and the US could not afford to lose another race. Although, as the narrative would go, they were not ready, as the technology they had was not sufficient to land a man on the moon. So Kubrick was hired, and he successfully fooled the entire world into thinking America had done the impossible. That is, of course, the entire world, bar those enlightened few that noticed it was fake. Why did Stanley do it? No one knows for sure. Some say it was for money, or a matter of burning patriotism. Perhaps the government has some dirty information on him they threatened to release. It's unknown. As the years rolled by, Stanley had time to ponder the events that had transpired, and he grew deeply, deeply guilty for the lies and deceit he orchestrated. So as a therapeutic way of relieving the guilt, he confessed his mistakes. Not blatantly, of course, as that would not be allowed. Hell, he might end up dead if he did that. No, he did it through carefully placed messages in the thing he knows best: film. And that's where The Shining comes into play. Placed throughout the film are a series of hidden messages that reveal Kubrick's involvement in the moon landing. This theory rose to prominence with the release of the Room 237 documentary. And as crazy as it is very entertaining, and I do suggest anyone with an interest in this topic, or conspiracy theories in general, check this out because it's a fun time. And without that documentary, I wouldn't be making this video for my 9 subscribers. So you have director Rodney Asher to thank. The documentary features numerous people that have spent large portions of their lives analysing The Shining in excruciating detail, and relaying the hidden messages they found. There are many different theories that go into detail about America's treatment of Native Americans, and Kubrick's disdain for the eradication of the gold standard, and the Holocaust. But the most prominent theory, and the one most relevant to this video, is that of the Apollo 11 cover-up. Let's look at these chronologically. First of all, the Overlook Hotel, the place Jack Torrance gets a job as a caretaker, and the main setting of the film, is said to represent America and its violent history. In the office Jack is hired, a decorative eagle sits above the employer's head. The landing module, used on the Apollo 11 mission, was called the Eagle. In one of the most famous scenes in the film, Danny, Jack Torrance's son, is riding his bicycle through the halls of the Overlook Hotel. Here, he comes across the 2 twin girls. In the novel written by Stephen King, there is only one girl. Theorists suggest that the addition of twins is a symbol of the failed Gemini 8 mission. This is due to the fact that the literal symbol for Gemini on the horoscope is in fact a set of twins. When Danny is playing with his toys on the carpet, there is said to be a series of hidden messages. First of all, the pattern of the carpet was shaped similar to that of the Apollo 11 launch pad. Secondly, Danny is wearing an Apollo 11 jumper, and perhaps this is the attention grabber that started the whole theory. When Danny stands up, it looks as though the rocket is lifting off from the launch pad. Danny proceeds to walk towards room 237. In the book, the room is actually room 217. Why would Kubrick change the room number? Theorists would tell you it's because, on average, the moon is 237,000 miles from Earth. Yet another hint planted by Kubrick. Others will suggest the room number was changed as the real hotel did not want customers being deterred from staying in room 217. Room 237 supposedly did not exist, so there would be no issues with that number. Danny, wearing the Apollo 11 jumper and walking into room 237, represents the Apollo 11 mission and the voyage to the moon. Finally, the famous "all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy," written on page after page of Jack's typewriter sheets, contains a hidden message. The "all" is said to stand for A11, or Apollo 11, another sign of Kubrick's involvement. Many more interesting theories surrounding The Shining which I won't go into detail about today, but I highly implore you to check out the Room 237 documentary. Again, while it's a lot of crazy theories, it is a fun time, and you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it. Stanley Kubrick still remains one of, if not the greatest director of all time, and the two movies I talk about in this video, 2001: A Space Odyssey and The Shining, are two of my favourites of his, so I had a good time making this video. Thank you for watching.